Right, you lot, let's talk Villa. Specifically, what we're going to do in the January transfer window. Because there's only like 4 days left. So yes, today we are going to be looking at why we should sign at least this one player in the remainder of the January transfer window. We signed Costa, he's gone back out on loan, but we have lost Leander Dendoncker, we've lost John Duran to injury, and there are only 4 days left. I'm recording this on Sunday. The transfer window ends, I believe, on Wednesday next week, and we still haven't really improved our squad depth at all, which is something that we'll get onto later in the video. But I'm going to start the little recording here. You can tell we're sat down today because this is serious business. Villa, I feel like we need to sign someone. But we go over to the Twitter, whack my foot up on the bed. Let's sit back, relax, and see what 292 of you have voted. Thank you very much for the engagement on this. That was incredible. So research starting today for a last-minute deadline day video all around Aston Villa, which is where we are right now. I said, so my Aston Villa fam, if you were to make one more signing this January, who do you want? And I asked for replies as well, if there was other. And then we did actually get some. We're going to go into them. One of them was actually quite good. So 45% of the votes were for Morgan Rogers, who apparently we have done a third bid for from Middlesbrough. 41% of the votes for Jonathan Rowe, which is something that came out of the woodwork, I think from, what's his name, Jonathan Percy, I think it is, from the Telegraph. And 41% of you said you wanted him as well. And he is a bit of an interesting one. We're going to get into him a little bit later in the video. 8% said Armando Broja, just because he's been one that we have been linked with when all the John Duran to like Chelsea stuff was kicking off. And then 6% said someone else. And we scroll down to the replies. David said Frimpong would give us a massive attacking option down the right and link with Diaby beforehand. Or Mitrovic on loan, as Watkin knows he plays every game regardless. Obviously Mitrovic was one that I mentioned in a previous video, which I'll link down below. And I'll chuck like a thumbnail of it up there as well. Where yes, Mitrovic from the Saudi League I like, but I just don't think he's going to come, to be honest with you. And he's on like 300 grand a week. But have a look at the video that I did do on that one. Interesting to look at that Saudi League at the moment. And I did say Frimpong easily got to be our number one target for summer. I believe Frimpong has a release clause which activates in the summer for like 35 million euros, but it's not active in January, so it makes more sense to wait, to be fair. And we have recalled Kane Kessler-Hayden from Port Vale to cover that position as well. Par Johansson, as well as Jack Up the Villa 95, have both said Morgan Whittaker, which is a player that we are going to get into a little bit more later in the video. We scroll up here. Dean says Isaac from Newcastle. Again, that would definitely be a summer signing, and it would be a statement signing. Obviously, Newcastle are in a little bit of hot water around the FFP rules this year. Obviously, Trippier's linked with going, Almirion's linked with going, as well as, who else was it? I think it was Callum Wilson linked with a loan out as well. So they, maybe. I mean, I like Isaac. He is a baller. And then right at the bottom, Jay Crumpton says Dybala. Obviously, again, Dybala one that we linked, we talked about in this video. I'll try and put it up that side. Probably the first video I came back on this channel. He had a release clause in his contract that expired on the 15th of January, and I think he got injured as well, like I say in my reply there. I think the ship has sailed on that one. But let's get into the three players I've put in here, and we are going to have a little bit of a deep dive into this Morgan Whittaker, because he is a spicy little baller as well. So the first player we are going to look into is Morgan Rogers. Now, I have done an entire video on Morgan Rogers and what the signing of him would mean for Villa after we did bid twice for him in a day. And I think a third bid has been lodged now. So thumbnail to that one will be up here somewhere, and I'll try and put the link on it as well. So go ahead and watch that if you are interested. But a quick fact file on Rogers himself. 21 years old, 6'4", plays left wing, right wing and striker. They're looking for about 10 million, I think, Middlesbrough at the moment for him. Ex-Man City Academy Scarlet as well, came from West Brom to Man City. In the Championship this season, 26 games, 2 goals and 6 assists. In the FA Cup, obviously against us, just the 1 game, no goal contributions. And then in the Moose Cup, the Carabao Cup, 6 games, 5 goals and 3 assists, including this peach against Chelsea. Fair enough, they were 6-0 down, but this was a goal and a half.
Nicely Fofana, Reece James, Romeo Lavia all out, but Rogers has a go.
And interestingly enough, Obviously, he won that poll, saying that he's the player that most of our fans want to sign. He won it over Jonathan Rowe, which is interesting because we'll look into another poll that I've done a little bit later on. But he is a physical player, attacking player. Obviously, you know, physically 6'4", and he's rapid as well. Could add a bit of a different dimension, and allegedly, according to all the news outlets, was Emery's number one signing. With the injury of Duran, who's out for about 7 weeks now, I think it probably would be a decent signing to get someone in to cover that position. He can also play out wide as well and free up someone like Leon Bailey to go and play up front with the season that he is having. And now he's proven he can score against Premier League opposition. Who cares if they're 6-0 down? It's still a good goal. You can score that goal at any point in that game. It's a fantastic finish. So would be an interesting one. Won the poll. Would he be your number one signing that we could make? Let me know in the comments down below. So we have another Twitter thread that I have done, which is talking all about Jonathan Rowe. So he plays for Norwich at the moment, 20 years of age. Again, a left wing / right winger, and stats this season: 31 games, 13 goals and 4 assists in all competitions. And he's one that kind of came out of nowhere. Like I say, Jay Percy from The Telegraph kind of just tweeted it out, saying that we're still monitoring him, we still really, really like him as a player. So I've done a little deep dive on him here. We scroll down. Why do we want him? And then we'll switch over to this fully on the screen now. His stats versus other right wingers in Tier 2. So this is from the 2023-2024 season. And we look at that. So the pink bit is the attacking stats. And then the white bit is obviously defending, and then possession stats are the yellow one. But you look at his defending and attacking stats, and that is high. Like, that's high percentile for everything. 83rd percentile for shots. Expected goal contribution is 50, but his actual goal contribution is 74. I think he's outperforming his XG by something stupid. I think his XG for this season was like 5, and he's obviously got 13 goals. It's something mental like that. His dribbles per 90 is up there in the high 60s, and then his non-penalty XG as well is 80%. In terms of possession-based stats, he's not, you know, his passes aren't high or anything like that. He seems like a bit of a dribbler with the ball. 67% for accurate passes though. Progressive passes 47% as well. But I think what Emery will like about him, especially this is again for a winger, he'd be coming in to take sort of John McGinn out of that wide attacking midfield role, or Bailey. And you look at his defensive stats here. I mean, Jesus Christ. 81% for aerial duels, 75% for aerial duels 1, 70% for defensive duels, 68% for defensive duels 1 for a winger. That is pretty goddamn impressive. And then we go down a little bit more past the little goal, which you'll see in a bit. For a 20-year-old, we look at here some more stats that I'll throw up. His non-penalty goals is in the 98th percentile versus attackers and wingers. 75th percentile for touches. And then you look at, again, the defensive actions that he's completing per 90, the tackles, the interception, the blocks, the clearances, the aerial duels won. They're all in the green. They're all sort of, you know, knocking about 70 to 80 percentile. So he's clearly a bit of a workhorse as well, which I think is something that obviously Emery likes. And we look at him versus midfielders. So you look at the difference there. You know, his attacking stats just go through the absolute roof. And it's the same with his sort of successful carries and take-ons per 90. I said to you, obviously his passing stats weren't all there. He has only got, I think, 2 assists in the league, but he's got 13 goals, so you let him off. But you look at the carries, the take-on, the touches, the progressive passes. That is all high percentile, especially his touches and progressive carries. They're like right up the top. Yeah, his defensive actions go down there. Clearly, he's playing a different role. Sort of the other midfielders that we're comparing him against here is sort of your defensive midfielders can even come into play there. So I wouldn't look into that too much. I'd look more into him versus the attackers and midfield wingers. But that is highly impressive. And then we finish with this, as you can see here, the ultimate question: who would you prefer? And out of 98 votes on this one, Rowe beat Rodgers 51 to 40%, and neither got 9%. That's quite the difference. And he can score goals like this.
He's a showman, and he's brought his show to the side of the Humber.
So what do you think about Jonathan Rowe. He's an interesting option. Better offensively, it seems, than Morgan Rogers. Plays a different role. I think Morgan Rogers would be coming in more as a split striker. I think Rowe would be more sort of out on the wings, although he does have the licence to come inside, like you saw with that goal that we put up there. An interesting one. Who would you prefer out of those two? But then we're going to get onto our little wild card type thing here in Morgan Whittaker. So who is Morgan Whittaker? He is a 23-year-old playing for Plymouth Argyle in the Championship, who are currently 15th, I believe. And he's an interesting one. I didn't even know he existed, to be honest, until a couple of days ago when he started getting mentioned a little bit. He hasn't been linked with Villa or anything like that. I think he's only recently signed for Plymouth in 2023. But he plays left wing, right wing or striker. He also plays attacking midfielder, which we'll come on to a little bit later. Could be the perfect blend of winging and attacking midfielding experience this season. Might take him into this Villa team quite easily. In the Championship this season, bearing in mind, he is in a struggling Plymouth team. They're 15th, so they're kind of like mid-table, floating around there or thereabouts. 28 league games, 15 goals and 6 assists. That is a mightily impressive read for anyone, I think. In the FA Cup, 2 games, 1 goal and 1 assist, and only 1 game in the Carabao Cup when they got knocked out by Crystal Palace, I believe it was. So you can forgive them for not possibly being as attacking as possible in that game. But we look through some stuff here that I'll throw up on the screen, and I'll get it up so that I can have a little read as well. But you look at it again, this is versus attackers and wingers. His non-penalty goals, his non-penalty XG, and his total shots, all up there in the top percentages of per 90s against attackers and wingers. And his shot creating actions as well. You do have to say his defensive sort of actions as well as his sort of progressive carries and stuff like that isn't as high as someone like Jonathan Rowe, but he is getting 15 goals at the moment and it's still only halfway through the season, which is mental. And we flip this one up, I think we saw this one for Jonathan Rowe as well. Look at those like offensive actions. The yellow, the attacking actions. That's mental. His dribbles per 90 percentile. His shots, 98.9 percentile. He's pretty much taking the most shots in the Championship right now. Goal contributions per 90, 86th percentile. Yeah, his possession and defensive actions aren't fantastic. And is that going to, would that hinder why Emery would like a player like this? But it's definitely one to look at. And he can score goals like the other ones that are bangers.
It's Whittaker!
And those are pretty much the 3 main players that I can think of right now. I don't think we're going to be going for anyone big purely because of FFP, and it doesn't seem like we have the most money to spend in the world. So those 3 are probably the most realistic targets for us this January. Who would you guys want out of those 3 players? Let me know in the comments down below. And why do I feel like we need to sign someone? Quite simply, we're 4th in the league. It's the January transfer window. I understand it's not like the best transfer window in the world. People don't go out splashing big cash. But I think our squad's got worse, which is a worry. We've sold Dendoncker, so Tim is going to come in and cover. So we've let an experienced Premier League player go. Fair enough, Dendoncker wasn't like the most fantastic player in the world. But we've let an experienced Premier League player go, and we're covering him with a kid who's only had experience really in the Championship. Instead of signing a backup right back, we've recalled Kane Kessler-Hayden, who, again, is just a Championship player. I understand these players are from the Championship that we want to sign as well. But, they've kind of been setting the Championship alight a bit, whereas these guys kind of haven't. And I feel like we just needed a bit more. I don't think we're going to get anyone in to cover Dendoncker. There was a couple of rumours of some players from Serie A, I think it was, but they haven't materialised. And for a team that's battling for top 4, I feel like you need to improve your squad every opportunity that you get in any way that you can. And I just don't think we've done that so far. So I think especially with John Duran's injury, that's a big one. 7 weeks out, it means Ollie Watkins is the only striker in our club. I did tweet that out, and someone, one of these like ultra positive Villa fans was like Leon Bailey, Moussa Diaby, Rory Wilson. And I was like, Rory Wilson's the only real striker out of that. And he's literally played 1 game for under 21s. He's an under 18 striker at the moment. So we have no real strikers to cover Watkins, and he is our only striker. So someone like Rodgers possibly would be an option for that as well. Or if there are any strikers that you guys can think of, let me know. But I just feel like we need someone. We need to strengthen. We haven't strengthened. We've got a little bit weaker this January window, and we're pushing for top 4. So let me know what you guys think. This video should be coming out on Monday. So with 2 or 3 days left of the transfer window. And I think it's getting a bit desperate now. I haven't heard anything on Twitter in a while. Fabrizio hasn't tweeted anything about Morgan Rogers or anything like that. But I want to know what you guys think. Again, leave your comments down below. Should Villa sign anyone? Should we stay with what we have? And if we should, was it one of those 3 that we've gone through this video? Or is it someone else? Obviously, I'll reply to everything. But as always, in 2 days, I went like that, my watch is underneath. In 2 days, I'm up to Villa Park to watch us play Newcastle, so hopefully we can get a result there and kickstart a fantastic 2024 second half of the season. But until then, be nice to everyone, up the Villa, and let's sign someone.